bracket. It is Michael Zhang versus Wolfe Glick. And this is an exciting matchup. This is maybe the first time I've seen Michael on stream playing against someone with a weirder team than his.
It's gonna be a strange experience for him, right?
It must be so disorienting.
It is a really strange matchup, right? Where you gotta kind of assume neither of these trainers probably thought about each other's matchups prior to, like, I don't know, this morning, maybe last night if they were lucky. So should be fun. I think both these trainers kind of enjoy a challenge too, right? So maybe a little more fun for them getting to figure out a new puzzle instead of showing us their answers to one they solved already.
Absolutely. And of course, both of these players are extremely decorated. Michael, of course, that Sacramento regional champion, really burst on the scene then, had a kind of disappointing 2025, but is now well on his way to qualifying for the World Championships this year in the 2026 season, and well deserved at it. Wolfe actually was kind of on the bubble heading into this tournament to make it into the World Championships as well. This placement definitely guaranteed his invite.
Yeah, very important tournament for Wolfe. I'm sure he'd like a little get more, both to be very certain, and also, I think everyone's very excited about the idea of being the first regional champion of Pokemon Champions era.
Yes, Michael Zhang, so excited to be the first champion of the Pokemon Champions era with that Frostlass team. The champion of the Pokemon Champion. Getting into the champion tier here at the regional. With this Frostlass team, of course, the Frostlass has been kind of the breakout Mega alongside the Mega Tyranitar. Michael Zhang showing both of those two as sort of the more consistently strong Megas that we've seen in the latter part of here Phase 2 and the top cut.
Yeah, I don't know if I was expecting to be at this point in the tournament talking about Frostlass being the one Pokemon, or Mega Evolved Pokemon at least, that we have a chance of seeing a mirror of in the finals. But how about that? Proven to be a really excellent Pokemon. A bunch of other fun techs in this team. Very anti-Charizard. So Michael, if he gets through this one, probably rooting for the Charizard player, the other semi-final matchup, just to maximize his odds. But a lot of really fun stuff here. I always love Michael's team. Such a great player to watch. Arcanine also, I think, worth pointing out. Not necessarily for this matchup, although maybe it'll show up, but I think mostly just because probably the most unique individual Pokemon remaining other than Wolfe Steelix.
Yeah, and of course this is the Rockhead version of the Arcanine, so it's not actually the Intimidate variant, which I'm sure helped Michael quite a bit against some of the King Gambit in the field.
Yeah, I think making note of that Corviknight as well. It is that more aggressive attacking Adamant. Corviknight, no bulk up. I think with bulk up, probably a bigger matchup problem for Wolfe's team. So I'll be curious to see what Michael's approach to this one is. Again, it's just not a matchup that I think either of the trainers had considered before a couple of hours ago, probably. So should be fun to see what they opt to go for. This is round 4 of the Wolfe Glick Regional Championship as he appears on stream once again. We've seen a lot of different modes from his team. Like the first appearance is very Steelix oriented. The second two very Tyranitar oriented. We did finally get to see that Talonflame, although
brief cameo.
While it's undefeated, it mostly just kind of like hung out for a moment, did like 15 damage, and then got knocked out. So
it forced Sneasler off the field.
Yeah, it's true. And then it was also forced off the field, but by having its health bar reduced to 0. Yeah.
And also that Rotom Wash, cannot overstate how important that Rotom Wash has been, especially in the previous sets that we've seen today for Wolfe, in keeping all of these two big offensive threats of the Steelix or the Tyranitar, or potentially even the Talonflame, up and at it with the Will-O-Wisp and the Light Screen as well. And the Steelix is kind of the big deal on this team, but we've also seen the Dragon Dance mode coming out from Tyranitar, and they both play so differently, it's going to be very difficult for Michael to get a jump onto Wolfe into this.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see what both trainers opt to do here. I think it's a little bit difficult just to anticipate, just because they probably don't have choreographed lines, so they have time to prep with their friends. I'm sure they've got pretty good plans coming into this one, but for now, we see some familiar friends on Wolfe's side of the field, with Rotom once again trying to lock up its tournament MVP honors, and Frostlass on their side of the field, who would be another contender for that award if we actually awarded it.
Yeah, absolutely. If either of these Pokemon, whichever one of these Pokemons makes it to the final, would definitely be one of the contenders for that MVP award. But this is the classic lead we've seen a few times now from Wolfe, just having the Sneasler and the Rotom to give him a bunch of different options of, do I want to go for the Light Screen? Do I want to go for Will-O-Wisp? Do I just want to go for damage? And the Rotom is actually threatening quite a lot here.
Yeah, Rotim's in a very good spot here. Light screen against the Frost Slash would be very effective. Of course, the fake out and a Hydro Pump would pick up a knockout on that Arcanine should the Hydro Pump hit even through the Focus Sash. So some options from both sides. The Arcanine feeling a little bit threatened, but the Frost Slash not so much, right? It has to worry about light screen reducing its damage eventually, but this turn it's relatively free to do what it wants.
Yeah, and what it wants to do right now is Mega Evolve and set the snow. There's the fake out coming out from Sneasler, breaking the Focus Sash onto Arcanine and preventing it from moving this turn. The first Blizzard comes out from Frostlass, connects onto Sneasler and Rotom. Sneasler takes about half its health in damage from there, and there is the flinch on Arcanine. Moving before the Rotom as Light Screen is the selection for Wolfe, just trying to reduce the damage of those Blizzards.
That really consistent behavior we've seen from Wolfe so far, always wanting to value the light screen over trying to pick up a knockout, where in that case, he had a fairly good chance of getting a turn 1 KO on the Arcanine, but no, he wants to set up his light screen. He has a plan with this team. He needs to build up his defense and then set himself up to try to sweep with one of his Mega Evolved Pokemon.
Yeah, at this point, the threat of close combat onto the Arcanine is doing the job of that Hydro Pump.
Right, so yeah, Rotom able to escape here, maybe come back later, help deal some of these Pokemon in the back, but has a pretty good matchup too, such as Corviknight, Tyranitar, or Garchomp.
Yeah, Tyranitar feeling so safe to switch in here. With no more snow, that means that Blizzards are less accurate. They're also going to be heavily resisted by the Tyranitar with the Sand boost to the special defense and the Light Screen dealing very little damage. This Arcanine is able to fire off a Head Smash that is going to deal a lot of damage right back, though. Head Smash is so strong, and the downside is usually just that it takes a bunch of recoil in return, but with that Rock Head, Arcanine really showing how much damage it can do.
Yeah, I don't know how safe it was feeling after all. That is about as much damage as we've seen this Tyranitar take in early in the game, and that's going to be tough. It's a little bit more than a single Hospitality is going to heal up there. So Tyranitar going to be a tough spot for the remainder of the game, and now we're at a point where if Frostlass were to switch in and out or be feeling a little risky, Blizzard might be right on the edge of being able to pick up a knockout.
Well, here is the Sinistcha for the first Hospitality, but like you mentioned, Wolfe is going to need another round to get that Tyranitar back to full health, or at least healthy enough to survive another one of those Rock Head attacks from Arcanine. There's the Mega Evolution though, so getting a boost to its stats as well as threatening a lot more damage. The extreme speed actually coming out from the Arcanine onto what was the Sneasler is now the Sinistcha. Does no damage, and Weather Ball comes out from the Frostlass, deals negligible damage, and here we go again. Another Dragon Dance on the Mega Tyranitar.
I'd like to say I can't believe that Wolfe was willing to Dragon Dance in front of those Pokemon, but at this point, I am. Very bold play by Wolfe where he was getting me pinned there, and I think a Head Smash into that slot likely would have sent us right into game 2. Instead, calls that no, there's no way you think I'm going to leave this Tyranitar open, despite the low HP, at least healing up enough that that Weather Ball wasn't able to knock it out, though I think it would have survived anyway. But no longer in extreme speed range, which I think would have been a real threat without the Hospitality, and suddenly threatening a quick Rock Slide that could have knocked out both of these Pokemon. So the Hydreigon going to enter battle, though I don't know if it would be especially excited about taking one of those attacks either.
Yeah, Hydreigon, another Pokemon that is the Steelix kind of forces Michael to bring, because if you don't bring that Pokemon, then you might just end up walled by Steelix, but it does not have a great matchup into this particular setup here. Those Rock Slides are hurting. That is over 100 damage to that Hydreigon. It is within range of another Rock Slide, and now Sneasler's on the field. That is Choice Scarf Hydreigon. Fake Out is so free there, and now that would be an easy double KO should the Rock Slides connect. Yeah,
we saw previously the attempt to go to the extreme seed of a Sneasler, and maybe that's an option, but that's probably a trade that Wolfe is willing to take at this point, scoring 2 quick knockouts maybe. However, maybe the prioritization to Sneasler on Michael's end indicates he has a Pokemon in the back that don't want to deal with Sneasler, so Wolfe playing a little bit safer, getting the Sinistcha in to heal up the Tyranitar, feeling like, hey, I'm not going to get knocked out by this Hydreigon anyway, and yeah, Sinistcha does catch that extreme speed a second time.
He can't keep getting away with it. The extreme speed into Sinistcha again, the Earth Power into Tyranitar, the Light Screen, and the Sand Boost doing so much for the Tyranitar as it's a clean double KO after one Dragon Dance.
And again, it's just great play by Wolfe, right? Why sacrifice your Sneasler there if you can switch in and wind up in a position where your Tyranitar is basically the same amount of HP it would have had anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. The light screen now finally wears off, but with Hydreigon out of the field, it's just going to be the Frostlass that's threatening special type damage. And that is going to threaten the Sinistcha very severely. And the Tyranitar is now pretty low, but you're feeling pretty good if you're Wolf, because you still got those.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf is real close to checkmate there, right? Where, you know, a knockoff into the Frostlass slot, you just have to find a way to safely get the Sneasler into threaten a close combat into the Tyranitar slot, and the game could be locked up.
Yeah, the targeting on the Sneasler previously, really telegraphing that Tyranitar in the back like you called out. Setting the stand again, which means that Frostlass still does not have access to fully accurate Blizzard. So if it does get an opportunity to attack, it's not dealing a lot with Weather Ball, we already saw. It may be able to hit a Blizzard, but it's going to need to hit those Blizzards or get a big Shadow Ball off into that Sinistcha.
Light screen is at least expired, but at this point I think Wolf would love it if Sinistcha were to get picked off here to give him the free switch, and Frostlass maybe trying not to provide that opportunity.
Yeah, Frostlass protecting this turn, Tyranitar protecting this turn, Sinistcha protecting.
Wolf will never let the Sinistcha go. It's too important to his strategy.
We need the Sinistcha. Crucially, though, you did get to see the order of speeds from those protects. Tyranitar protecting first, Frostlass protecting second. That means that Frostlass has nowhere to go this turn. Forfeit locked in from Michael, and we are headed into game 2.
Yeah, that made it so that, I guess it was pretty overlooking anyway, but yeah, Frostlass would have needed a double protect to avoid getting knocked out by the knockoff anyway, or a rock slide even if Wolf was willing to risk it. And then, at his leisure, he could have brought in the Sneasler to finish off the Tyranitar. So that game very over, and wow, really impressive first game by Wolf, where the beginning of the game always looks a little strange with this team, but correctly calls it that Head Smash isn't going to go into the Tyranitar slot, takes that cheeky Dragon Dance, and the game's kind of just over from there. Really aggressive read by Wolf, where that switch into the Tyranitar, like, oh man, like, Wolf, what are you doing? But hey, he's showing how he got here. Makes a great read to dig himself right back out of the hole he put himself in. Yeah,
despite having a Steelix, which is an extremely defensive Pokemon, this is one of the most aggressive Wolf teams I've seen in a while, and he is playing it so aggressively as well. Like you mentioned, that Tyranitar has been sneaking these Dragon Dances over and over again, and it really just takes one for the game to completely flip on its head.
Speaking of Steelix, by the way, did Wolf kind of just trick us all yesterday? Like, did he deliberately have this Steelix, really like a highly Steelix-oriented strategy, knowing that everybody was going to watch him at the end of Swift? So then, like, well, we keep having these team previews where I'm sure everyone is really afraid of the specter of the Steelix that we haven't seen in almost 24 hours.
Yeah, you get all the whispers around the venue of, oh, there's a Steelix. I think Wolf's running Steelix.
He's going to get the title?
He's got the Steelix admirer.
He's admiring in his Pokeball.
Yeah, not even a professor yet. That should be the giveaway. Not enough wins on that Steelix just yet. Here is the leads for game 2. It's Arcanine and the Garchomp up against the Tyranitar and the Sneasler. This Garchomp looking much better here than the Frostlass in the previous game.
Yeah, this Garchomp has a triple kill in its eyes, or triple knockout, I guess. But yeah, there's no way it's actually going to go for that, right? Where certainly, I guess with the Sash, you could do it if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
But, I think interesting position, though, because there's so much damage being threatened on the board here. The Garchomp could go to Earthquake, super effective on either of these Pokemon. We saw how much damage the Head Smash did last game. So Sneasler going to do a very defensive fake out there, understanding that he does not want to deal with this Garchomp, even though with Arcanine not protecting, that would have been an Earthquake anyway.
There's the Head Smash into Arcanine. Tyranitar going down to about 1/3 of its health, but that is not enough to prevent a Dragon Dance. And this is what it has been over and over and over and over again. 1 or 2 Dragon Dances and this Tyranitar just pops off.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not sure the end of the world would stop Wolf from using Dragon Dance, where it's going to happen no matter what. Look, the question is if you can stop Tyranitar after it's done the dance.
Sometimes the rhythm's going to get you, man. You got to watch out.
This Tyranitar loves to move, and it's moving quickly now. It should be the quickest Pokemon on the field other than perhaps Wolf's own Sneasler. So great pin here by both these Pokemon, but is going to protect. Sneasler maybe trying to get some damage off here before an inevitable Sinistcha switch in to heal up this Tyranitar once again.
Really important close combat onto the Arcanine to bring it down to that Focus Sash. The Head Smash coming out from Arcanine has been so powerful into that Tyranitar. Another one would pick up the KO. That does mean that the Sneasler is able to get its White Herb activated, and if it is able to survive this turn, it will be the fastest thing on the field. There's a Head Smash into Tyranitar. Here comes the Dragon Claw onto Sneasler. Not going for the Earthquake because of the Arcanine next to it. That just means that Sneasler gets away with it. A full 169 damage into that Arcanine.
Yeah, so interesting play though. Tyranitar burning to protect, so now there's the opportunity where even if Sinistcha is coming in, an Earthquake would actually hit it. Again, it would require either a switch on the Arcanine or a sacrifice, or we've seen so many attempts to go for this extreme speed of a slot. Does he do something different this time, or is this a third catch?
Sinistcha out on the field, going to heal up the Tyranitar. Still has not Mega Evolved. That is just still a base form Tyranitar. A little bit of extra damage from the extreme speed coming out from the Arcanine, and the knockoff not quite enough to pick up the KO onto Garchomp. Brings it down so low, however. Here comes the Earthquake, will pick up the KO onto the Arcanine, onto the Tyranitar, and deal a little bit to the Sinistcha. Just a double KO, not a triple, but came pretty close.
And it was his own Pokemon as one of the two, right? So that was the one I was thinking he would want to try and pick up. Big knockout to get the Tyranitar there. We've seen how critical this is to Wolf's offense, though it is interesting he didn't Mega Evolve, right? There could be two reasons why he made that choice. It could be that he wanted to hold it in order to get weather control against the Frostlass, or it could be that Steelix wasn't an illusion after all. We'll find out really soon, but this battle looking a little bit spooky if it's not the Steelix in the back, and even if it is, not going to be able to use that Sand Force ability unless the opposing Tyranitar helps out again.
Okay, Corviknight coming out now from Michael. We did not see Corviknight previously. This is a great Pokemon into Wolf's team, as it does pretty much completely wall that Steelix should it still be in the back. Now the Sneasler on the side for Wolf, being able to threaten more fake-out pressure.
Yeah, this is an excellent adjustment. The Corviknight, we could be running into a situation like we saw with his first game on stream, right, where does the rest of his stuff even matter? Unless Talonflame or Rotom is in the back, it's going to be very difficult to knock this Pokemon out. And unlike the other Corviknight we've seen, it doesn't need to build up, right? Its high end is a lot lower because it doesn't have something like Bulk Up, but it's Adamant. It can do some serious damage. Sinistcha likely already in KO range from it, and this Sneasler going to knock out this Garchomp to avoid being knocked out itself.
Yep, there is a KO onto Garchomp. Wolf has now picked off both the Arcanine and the Garchomp from Michael's team. Corviknight, though, as you mentioned, still very threatening against both of the Pokemon that Wolf has showing right now. Brave Bird there connects onto Sneasler, so we'll pick up the KO there. And now we will be able to find out which Pokemon is the final Pokemon that both trainers have brought.
It is the trick room for the Sinistcha.
I think I know.
So,
I think I know.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's not Talonflame.
Probably not the Talonflame here. Sinistcha setting the trick room here, and now both players picking their final Pokemon to come out.
So this is extremely interesting. You got to assume it's probably the two Mega Evolved Pokemon. It is the Steelix of Wolf, the crowd favorite, making an appearance. And it's the Tyranitar, not the Frostlass. So very interesting there. Either way, there would have been a type advantage for the Steelix, but now two physical Pokemon facing down one of the premier physical walls of yesteryear with Steelix, yearning for the days of gold and silver, perhaps bringing them back in this tournament. We'll see a Mega Evolution pretty quickly, and without Frostlass, we will, at least for one more turn, get access to that Sand Force ability.
Yeah, and that's going to be really, really important. I think we are headed to a Steelix versus Corviknight showdown pretty quickly, I think. It may come down to if this Sinistcha is going to be able to get a Matcha Gotcha burn onto that Corviknight. Otherwise, Steelix and this Tyranitar are probably going to go fight each other, and then the Corviknight's just going to pick up whatever's left.
The trainer's like, I'd prefer not to be fought, actually, and get the Protect up, hoping to get a free attack from the Steelix in, or from this Corviknight in, rather. Steelix is going to attack into the Protect, so this could be a free attack for the Corviknight. We'll have to find out if it's free or not if this burns.
Matcha Gotcha connects on to Corviknight, does have a high chance to burn on attack. The Corviknight gets burnt. Matcha Gotcha too hot from the Sinistcha. And now there is a clock on the Corviknight, and what was looking like a one-on-one showdown that would stall out completely is now looking more like Wolf getting to time this out to make it to the finals.
Yeah, that's still the berry activating on the Sinistcha as well, so going to heal up enough that it can probably survive for a couple more turns here. And Matcha Gotcha going to be pretty serious on this Tyranitar. That sand expiring, and while it reduces the damage of this Steelix's damage output, we'll both do a lot more damage to Tyranitar, and also thus heal a lot more back. So the Sinistcha might actually hang around for a little while here.
Yeah, unfortunately for Michael, I just don't see a big out for him, except for potentially dodging a high horsepower and a Matcha Gotcha coming coming out from this Sinistcha. Does not dodge the high horsepower, just takes the big damage there, and the Machagacha also connecting onto Tyranitar, picks up the KO. Tyranitar goes down, Corviknight takes a little bit of damage. Yeah, that was a critical hit, but okay. But more critically, that burn previously means that this Corviknight has no way of recovering its health, which means that all Wolfe has to do is wait until the timer ticks down.
Yeah, this is a very impressive game by Wolfe. That burned critical on the Sinistcha, where I think this endgame would have been much closer, though. I imagine Steelix probably wins it anyway. It's really not two Pokemon I'm used to watching fight each other in the Pokemon Video Game Championship. But the Pokemon is locked in, and Wolfe is moving on to the first finals of the Pokemon Champions era.
Wow, an incredible tournament run from Wolfe so far, and really well played in that 2-game win over Michael Zhang. Again, that game one,